Welcome back to the last and final episode of Cheshire Mouldings Track Day Pro Tips. I've really enjoyed bringing you all the tips that I've picked up throughout my career and things that I use when I was doing my own track days, when I had my own bike, but also the things I've gathered up through racing and racing at the highest level. I hope you've been able to absorb some of that information and apply it to your track days when you go all throughout the UK. So I thought, why not, for the last and final episode, bring you to one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, Donington Park. A track I know a lot of you will be familiar with, and try and talk you around the lap from entering the track to finishing that perfect lap. Cheshire Mouldings has been a loyal supporter of mine for several years now, and I'm sure you've seen their branding all over motorcycle paddocks throughout the world. Well, they're a UK-based company specialising in high-quality stair parts and innovative DIY solutions. So, are you gearing up for your next DIY project? So whether you're wanting to spruce up your outdoor areas or renovate your inside space, Cheshire Mouldings has got you covered with a wide range of specialised products. Personally, I'm in love with the wall panelling system. It can transform any room. In fact, they did a great job in my home gym. With easy installation and a variety of designs to choose from, these wall panels can transform any space and give you that sophisticated look. So what are you waiting for? Check out the information in the description below and start transforming your space with Cheshire Mouldings today. So to take you back to the very start, before we even get through the gate at Donington Park, be prepared. Be prepared about tyres, know what pressures you're going to run on the tyres, have your tyre warmers ready, because it'll just make getting out in that first session really worthwhile. You'll not waste time getting up to speed with the temperatures in the tyre, and you'll be a lot more safe. Being prepared is also getting there early. Make sure you get signed on early, make sure you know what session you're in, and then back to the garage, last little look over the bike, and the all-important tyre timbers. Make sure you check them when the tyres are hot. We covered that in the first few episodes, so if you haven't seen them, go back and check it out. They're in the library. So make sure and go back and check that out. That was episode 1 where we talked about tyre pressures and the importance of that and safety. In all the other episodes, I've gone over a range of things, from lines, from trail braking to body position. Refresh yourself with that, but right now I'm going to talk to you about Donington Park. And when we get out on the track, I'm going to try and talk you around what a perfect lap looks like for me, what I think about subconsciously in my brain when I ride around the track, points of references, braking points, and if you even can mute out my dull Northern Irish tone, you can check out my bike, my RPMs, my gear changes, and I really hope it's about a 1 minute 28 lap I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to try and do it in 2 stages where we do some pauses and I talk to you about corners, and then we'll free flow through a lap at race speed and you can really enjoy it. So Donington is a great track to talk to you around because a lot of my audience, especially in the YouTube channel, are from the UK. A lot of you are familiar about the track, and when we talked about setup a few episodes ago, people get hung up at Donington about the braking zones, the last corners, they need to change the fork springs. Let me tell you this, Donington is a track about compromise. The last sector is all about stop and go, but the previous 2 sectors are all about flowing with the bike, agility, so to compromise. Whilst you want to stop the bike well, you also need it to turn. So find that happy medium, and I'm just assuming we've got everything right. We've had it out in our out lap. For me personally, I like to learn a new track or get out in my first session with nobody in front, you know, so it's just me and the track and I can start picking up them references. So as I press play here, exiting the last corner, start shifting through the gears. As you'll notice here, I just press pause as I go over to the start-finish line. I start making my way over to the left-hand side of the track. Donington, pretty good for references to be honest, because on the left-hand side, the exit of pit lane is that big red area that's really pronounced, so I aim for that. Another tip is I don't want to bring Donington down, but it's not the safest pit exit. So when you're exiting onto your siding lap for Donington, always make sure and check over that right shoulder and check when it's safe to enter the track, because you enter the track on the racing line. Be careful with that one because it's caught lots and lots of race riders out at different times. Red gate, turn one, nice corner. Very, very light apex. As you see, I turn in here without even seeing the curb, but it's important to get right to the curb. I've paused it right on the curb here because you can see I've even missed it. When we talk about getting to the curb, my first ever team manager, Robin Appleyard, used to always tell me to have my knee right over the curb. That means so that both tyres can be more or less hugging that white line. You'd be surprised how many meters you can gain by just making sure you're not just caressing the white line, but your tyres on that white line and your knees right over the curb. Then as we exit Red Gate, trying to use a lot of the track, but when we did our track walk at Donington Park in my vlog, I told you the 2 reference points at the top of Hollywood before you change direction down Crane Curves. The first point is right over that curb at the top of Hollywood, the first one. I tried to get close to that. As you see, I pick it up, then start to use about 40%, 30-40% of the track and come back for the second curb on the right. As you'll see, when I start to hit that second curb, I'm already starting to pick the bike up right and change direction into Crane Curves, because the Crane Curves one, as I pause here, you can't even see the curb. You know, I'm waiting for the curb, so the change of direction has to happen even before you get there. As we get right over that curb, it's important again, there's 50% track. You know, 50% track, because you have to set up the old hairpin. Down into the old hairpin, a lot of trail braking, off camber, very, very difficult corner, because what happens after the old hairpin is, you can't see it on video, but when you're really there in real life, the elevation change between the old hairpin and turn 7 and 8 is incredible. It's more or less uphill. Fabian Faure, my rider coach, actually gave me a really good tip a few years ago when Tom Sykes was the king of Donington. Tom was doing something pretty different to what I was that weekend. He was coming out of the old hairpin and really using that third gear, really getting the best out of third gear before short shifting fourth and fifth gear. I paused here before the entrance of McLean's. I'm pausing because I was telling you gears. Listen, the gears on your bike can be and will be probably completely different to the gears that I run on my super bike. We can change internal gearbox ratios, final gearings, but it's important when you have a rhythm on the track day that you sort of take note of the gears. And a tip that I use to do that is I always count my back shifts. So I always think, okay, T7, I back shift 2 gears. T8, I only back shift 1. Or the hairpin, I back shift 3 gears into turn 1. Really good, just a good reference for you. So as we come up through Schwantz and we're starting to set up McLean's, that curb on the left is very, very important to get to, because when I go into McLean's, another late apex and also partially blind. For me and my super bike, it's back to second gear. On previous bikes, it was third gear. But it's really important to late apexes, try and grab that curb. You'll see when I get to the curb, the emphasis I have to pick the bike up, pick it up quite aggressively, because even that short, sharp acceleration to coppice is really important. Coppice. I've paused it here long before coppice, because as we run out of curb here, all we see is like a motocross jump. But you can imagine right at the top of that motocross jump, on the lip of it is the curb. So you have to go up there completely blind, you don't see nothing. So make sure, a good point of reference is between the 2 curbs, the exit of the one from McLean's and the entry to the one on Coppice on the left side. Pick a reference point there. For me, there was some dirt on the left-hand side of the road that I used, and on the super bike race weekends, generally there's some white painted lines that I use as reference. Anything you can pick up will really help you find that break point. As we go into Coppice, there's the curb there. It's important to get to that curb. Then, using a lot of the track, you'll see all the white lines. Try to get back to the second curb on the exit, but once I get there, I'm focused on picking the bike up and using every single ounce of horsepower I have to get down that back straight. You'll see a lot of riders riding down the left side of the track like I am. When they get to that, they call it the Dunlop Bridge, throw an angle at the bike, because that angle really kind of, if you think about it as scrubbing a jump, you go over the torque range and the power, maybe keeps the wheelie down a bit more, and then it's about braking into the chicane. Listen, pro superbike riders at Donington, in the last few years are using both the inside curbs at the chicane. Do I advise this if you're just new to track days? Probably not, because there's a knack to running the inside curbs. You're doing it at speed and changing direction. But when you master it, you cannot believe how many meters you save from the break point of the chicane to the break point of the Melbourne Loop. It's incredible the different line you can use and how much more corner speed you can use. There we see, run it inside curb, and picking it up. The exit of the chicane for me, honestly, one of the most physical parts of the track, because you can imagine we've got a 200 plus horsepower superbike, 170 kilos. You're trying to turn the bike, change direction with the bike, stop it wheeling, and your body's in such a tense area of the bike. So what I would suggest is try to use, a good tip I use is the rear seat position. If you feel like you're stretched out over the bike, it's not great. You know, you want to be on top of the handlebars, on top of the tank here. So if you have to use a rear seat pad, for example, to push you forward, that'll really help you. Again, Melbourne Loop. As we head down here, we brake even before we see the apex. Curb on the left's a really good reference. Melbourne Loop, as I spoke to in previous Cheshire Mouldings Track Day Pro tips, try to get out of the habit of, I don't want to stereotype most track day users, but running in on the very outside of the track and using that so much corner speed at the apex. Try to slow the bike right down. Here we go. Go towards the apex with my trail brake. I've stopped now right on the apex. So the video's stopped. That's my slowest part. That's the part where I'll put most lean angle, let the bike finish its turn before picking the bike up and accelerating out. From A to B, it's the fastest. From A to B, it's the most safest way of doing it. But it's a step-by-step, you know, training your brain to use that, let's say, superbike racing line. I mean, if you're riding a 125 or a Moto 3 bike or a bike with no power, okay, you have to use a lot of corner speed, but there's no need to run down the outside of the track, throw angle at the bike and railroad it around there. Then, as we're going into Gotthard's, the last corner, sorry, it's the same. Get in there, nice and easy, trail braking right to the curb. Then, once you're there, forget about trying to open the gas hard. Let the bike finish turning. Be patient with the bike. Then, as soon as you can see the exit reference and the outside curb, start picking that bike up, and then get as much power to the ground as you can in the fat part of the tyre. That's a fast lap at Donington Park. So that's a 1 minute 28.6 lap. Not one that's going to put me on pole position at a World Superbike race, but one that's competitive enough. And hopefully some of them little tips will help you enjoy the track a bit more, or even just get up to speed. If you've never been to Donington, that might help you accelerate your learning there. But enjoy it, and yeah, I'll right after this, I'll play without any volume from my side. You can enjoy the lap, you can enjoy the gear changes and the awesome sound of the Yamaha R1. So guys, that's the end of Cheshire Mouldings Track Day Pro Tips by myself, Jonathan Ray. I hope you really enjoyed the episodes. I hope you could take something from it. I'm not a motorcycle coach. My day-to-day job is racing at the highest level, but I really hope you could absorb some of my experience, the shortcuts that I use as well. And I've really enjoyed all your comments because it gives you a different perspective, lets me think about what you guys want to see as well. And remember, all the different coaches out there have their own point of view. They'll be pushing their ideas on you, but it's about you, the rider. It's about you learning from your experience. And if you have a coach or you can hang on to something that anybody tells you, then that's amazing. So enjoy your riding, stay safe guys, and hopefully I can see you at a racetrack sometime soon.